The 90s were a transformative decade for the video game industry, often regarded as a golden age of innovation, creativity, and technological breakthroughs. From the transition to 3D graphics to the rise of iconic franchises and consoles, this era redefined what video games could achieve both as a form of entertainment and as a cultural phenomenon. It laid the foundation for modern gaming, while also producing many of the classics that are still cherished today. One of the defining features of the 90s was the fierce rivalry between Nintendo and Sega. The two companies dominated the gaming landscape, with their consoles representing opposing ideologies in both marketing and design. Nintendo entered the decade riding high on the success of the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, and quickly followed up with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES. The SNES boasted superior 16-bit graphics and sound compared to its predecessor, and its library of games featured timeless classics such as Super Mario World, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, and Donkey Kong Country. Nintendo emphasized polished, family-friendly games, establishing itself as a cornerstone of gaming culture. On the other side of the spectrum, Sega sought to position itself as the cooler alternative. Its Sega Genesis, or Mega Drive, gained popularity in the early 90s with titles like Sonic the Hedgehog, which became Sega's mascot and rival to Mario. Sega's aggressive marketing campaigns, such as the slogan "Genesis does what Nintendo don't," emphasized speed, attitude, and edge. The Genesis attracted older players with its sports games like Madden NFL and arcade-style action titles like Streets of Rage. The rivalry spurred innovation, but it also divided gamers. Sega and Nintendo's console war was more than a marketing battle. It was a cultural phenomenon that cemented gaming as a major form of entertainment. The mid-90s saw the gaming industry transition from 2D to 3D graphics, fundamentally altering how games were designed and played. This leap was made possible by advancements in hardware and the emergence of fifth-generation consoles like the Sony PlayStation, Nintendo 64, and Sega Saturn. Sony's PlayStation, launched in 1994, revolutionized gaming with its use of CDs instead of cartridges, which allowed for larger and more complex games. Titles like Final Fantasy VII, Resident Evil, and Metal Gear Solid demonstrated the potential of cinematic storytelling in games. Sony also embraced third-party developers, leading to a diverse and robust library that solidified the PlayStation as a dominant force in the late 90s. Nintendo, meanwhile, released the Nintendo 64, N64, in 1996, which was a powerhouse for 3D gaming. Super Mario 64 was a landmark title that redefined platforming games with its open-world design, intuitive controls, and freedom of movement. Similarly, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, released in 1998, is often hailed as one of the greatest video games of all time for its masterful combination of narrative, exploration, and gameplay innovation. The Sega Saturn, though technologically advanced, struggled to compete due to poor marketing and a lack of developer support. However, it still produced memorable games like Virtua Fighter and Panzer Dragoon. These advancements in 3D gaming also influenced the PC market, where titles like Quake and Tomb Raider demonstrated the growing importance of 3D engines. The shift to 3D fundamentally altered player expectations, paving the way for modern open-world and first-person experiences. The rise of PC gaming. While consoles dominated living rooms, the 1990s were also a golden age for PC gaming. The widespread adoption of personal computers, combined with advancements in graphics and sound cards, allowed developers to create increasingly sophisticated games. Strategy games like Civilization II and StarCraft gained immense popularity, setting the standard for the genre. Meanwhile, role-playing games, RPGs, like Baldur's Gate and Fallout introduced rich storytelling and complex decision-making. The first-person shooter FPS genre was also born in this decade, with games like Doom, 1993, and Quake, 1996, revolutionizing multiplayer gaming and modding communities. PC gaming also saw the rise of real-time strategy, RTS, games with Command and Conquer and Warcraft 2, which emphasized competitive play and spawned devoted fan bases. The rise of the internet in the late 90s further expanded PC gaming, enabling online multiplayer experiences that foreshadowed the esports phenomenon of later decades. The 1990s began with arcades as a dominant force in gaming. Titles like Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat popularized the fighting game genre and brought competitive gaming to the forefront. Arcades became social hubs where players could test their skills against others in a communal setting. However, as home consoles and PCs became more powerful and affordable, arcades began to decline. By the late 1990s, the once thriving arcade scene had diminished significantly, though it left a lasting legacy in competitive gaming and game design. Many of today's most beloved gaming franchises were born or reached new heights during the 1990s. Nintendo expanded its flagship series with Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Sega introduced Sonic the Hedgehog, which became synonymous with the Genesis era. The decade also saw the emergence of groundbreaking franchises like Final Fantasy, which reached global acclaim with Final Fantasy VII in 1997. Pokémon became a cultural phenomenon with the release of Pokémon Red and Blue in 1996. Meanwhile, Tomb Raider introduced players to Lara Croft, one of gaming's first major female protagonists and a pop culture icon. In the PC market, Blizzard Entertainment launched Diablo and StarCraft. ID Software pioneered the FPS genre with Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. These franchises not only pushed technological boundaries, but also captured the imagination of players around the world. The 1990s solidified video games as a mainstream form of entertainment. The rise of iconic mascots like Mario, Sonic, and Pikachu turned games into a cultural touchstone for a generation. The decade also saw the first debates about video game violence, particularly with the release of controversial titles like Mortal Kombat and Doom. This led to the creation of the Entertainment Software Rating Board, or ESRB, in 1994. Moreover, the social aspect of gaming evolved. Couch co-op games like GoldenEye 007 on the N64 became legendary for their split-screen multiplayer experiences. Meanwhile, the advent of online gaming in the late 90s laid the groundwork for the connected experiences we enjoy today. The 1990s were a pivotal decade for video games, marked by rapid technological progress, creative breakthroughs, and the rise of gaming as a cultural force. Thank you for watching this video. Find out more in the description below.